27. And in the midst of the week, he will cause the sacrifice and the oblations to cease for the overspreading of the abominations. He will make it desolate even to the consummation, and that which is determined is poured upon the desolate. So the Antichrist, given power for 7 years, but in the middle of those 7 years, he will come and he will cause the sacrifices and oblations to cease. We're told he makes a covenant with the nation of Israel. In this covenant, he no doubt is granting them permission to rebuild their temple and to start again their sacrifices. When I was in Israel talking to some of the Jews concerning Bible prophecy and talking with them of the things that were going to happen according to the Bible, I was talking to them, of course, about Jesus and why they didn't accept him as their Messiah. Looking today at the history since the time of the coming of Christ, and looking at the prophecies of the Old Testament that spoke of his being put to death and being a sacrifice, taking our sins and all, why is it that you can't see that Jesus is the Messiah? And they said, because Jesus claimed to be the Son of God. And we do not believe that the Messiah will be the Son of God, that the Messiah will be a man. As Moses said, and there shall arise a man like unto myself, and to him shall you give heed. And so we believe that he'll be a man. I said, if he is a man, how will you know that he is the Messiah? And they said, he will lead us in the rebuilding of the temple. So it is interesting that the Jews today are looking for the Messiah to come. They believe the Messiah is coming. They'll recognize him because he will give them the permission to rebuild the temple. So the scenario as it's working its way out, we are living in these last days. The nation of Israel has been redeveloped and restored. It is a nation again. Though it is a nation, according to Zechariah and other prophets, they're going to have all kinds of problems establishing as a nation, and the whole world will be against them. Now, that's exactly what we see today. They'll redevelop the land agriculturally. Israel, they that come of Israel will blossom and bud and fill the earth with fruit. It is the third largest exporter of fruit of all of the nations in the world. And so these prophecies concerning the rebirth of the nation of Israel, the agricultural development of the land, have happened before our eyes and in our time. There will be a confederation of nations that will come against Israel, led by Russia and by Iran and by other Muslim nations, to try and destroy Israel. Now we have the leader of Iran threatening to destroy Israel almost daily in his rhetoric and speeches. And we do see Israel more or less standing alone. You say, oh no, the United States, whoa, come on. Let's be straight. The United States is not standing by Israel. The United States is forcing Israel into concessions that can only bring defeat to them. We're not their friends. And though we may try to act like we are friends, we are twisting their arms, and forcing concessions on them that are not conducive for the survival. In fact, weakening the nation of Israel so that it will embolden this attempt by Iran, backed by Russia and other Muslim nations, to try and obliterate the nation of Israel. When they come to invade Israel, God will intervene. And as in the days of the Old Testament, God will defend the nation of Israel, and he will destroy the invading armies that come against Israel, which, as we mentioned earlier, will give rise to Western Europe and allow it to become the major player in the world at that time. So we have it sort of laid out for us here, and we see it coming to pass in our world today right before our eyes. So the final kingdom, the confederating of the 10 nations, but then with the powers ultimately being invested in this one man, or vested in this one man called the Antichrist. In reading of him in Daniel chapter 11, the ships of Shittim shall come against him, therefore he shall be grieved and return and have fury against the holy covenant. And so shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence with them and forsake the holy covenant. And arms shall he stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength. They shall take away the daily sacrifice. They shall place the abomination that makes desolate. And the king shall do according to his will. He will exalt himself, magnify himself above every god. He'll speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, and that which is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. He will make a covenant with the nation of Israel, but in the midst of that covenant, or in the midst of that week, after 3.5 years, he will come to the rebuilt temple, and he will order the sacrifices to stop and the daily prayers to stop. And he will stand in the Holy of Holies, and he will declare that he is God and demand to be worshipped as God. Jesus, in talking to his disciples about the signs of the end, he said, when you see the abomination of desolation that was spoken of by Daniel the prophet, when you see him standing in the holy place, then flee out of Jerusalem, because that's when all hell is going to break forth on earth. So the picture is just, being set right before our eyes. Nahum the prophet said, God is jealous. The Lord revenges. The Lord revenges and is furious. The Lord will take vengeance on his adversaries, and he reserves the wrath for his enemies. The Lord is slow to anger and in great power, and he will not forgive or acquit the wicked. The Lord hath his way in the whirlwind, in the storm, and in the clouds are the dust of his feet. He rebukes the sea, he makes it dry. He dries up the rivers. Bashan languisheth, and Carmel and the flower of Lebanon languisheth. The mountains quake at him, the hills melt, and the earth is burned at his presence, yea, the world and all that dwell therein. Who can stand before his indignation? Who can abide the fierceness of his anger? His fury is poured out like fire, and rocks are thrown down by him, or the meteorites, the showers of meteorites that will bring such destruction. Zephaniah prophesied, therefore Wait upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I will rise